Good morning, America, and welcome to the Family Fantasy Podcast, Week 3. Be quiet, Kaylee. I said you could be in here if you were quiet. Shut up. Okay, first thing I'd like to start off with is if you see this right here, it's a cold sore, and it's gross, I know. Moving on. The first segment is the favorite. It's power rankings. So I will start with the last place, and I will speak about them a little bit, and I'll move up. So, number 12, Team Xanadu. Dude, dogs, stop. Hey, Lucy, knock it off. Stop. Stop biting Roxy. Okay, get her up there. Team Xanadu. I mean, there isn't much good things about his team. He drafted pretty poorly, minus Josh Allen, Devontae Adams. He has Taysom Hill starting at tight end. Both his running backs are rookies that haven't done much yet. I mean, there is room for like a possible, it could be good if both these rookies pan out. If Etienne and Walker also do what they could do, then it's not impossible that he could be a good team, especially with his receiver corps actually being respectable. But as it stands now, it's not a great team, and it's definitely last, at least until these rookies figure out where they belong. All right. Sorry about that in the background, by the way. Dogs are fussing. All right, coming in at number 11 is the Steel Curtain, also known as Keaton. I'm sorry, Keat, but so far your team has been really ass. I don't think his team's going to be bad forever, but I kind of have to, put the teams where they've performed at and not necessarily where I think they'll be. It's a little different than that. It's, how well they played. And so far they played really bad. Kyle Pitts has been fucking disgusting. I have him in the work league too, and he's terrible. Austin Eckler's been embarrassing. Jerry Jeudy had 1 point last week? Yeah, 1.7. His team would have been better last week had he started Jalen Waddle, who had 3,000 yards and 8 touchdowns in one quarter. But still, besides that, there's no one on his bench that's going to save him besides Waddle. His starting lineup is underperforming heavily, so as it stands, he's 11. Now, for number 10. Lucy, knock it off. Number 10 is my Balzac Ertz, also known as Aaron. He has started the same lineup for the third straight week now. I don't think he understands how fantasy football works too much. I told Ari to help him, and Ari said, "You help him, I'm busy." And I said, "He's literally your brother." And Ari said, "I don't care." So, his team is going to be really, really poor by the end of the season. He has no running backs besides these two. They're both the second string running backs in their offense, so if one of them gets injured, it's not like you can just sign the backup and be fine. He's kind of screwed if there's any injuries happen to this team. And Lockett and DK Metcalf are not going to be that great this year with Geno Smith at quarterback, so that is not healthy. However, he actually has good players at like 4 positions. Like in my mind, he has the number 1 player at 4 different positions. Carlson's definitely going to be a top 3 kicker. Bills defense is going to be the number 1 defense. Travis Kelce is going to be the number 1 tight end. I personally think Jamar by the end of the year will be the number 1 receiver. So that's good. It's just the pieces around that are not. Like the bench is awful. Matthew Stafford's fine. Gordon, Dillon are not that great. So there's work to be done. He could have a good team, but I just don't think he understands how it really works. I don't think he really was explained it well enough. So, I mean, that's fine, but as it stands, he is the 10th team. Number 9 is a team that I actually thought going into the year would be a little better than this, but they are also underperforming, and that team is Team Seahawks Mama. On paper, her team looks pretty awesome, minus Robbie Anderson. I don't know why he's right there. Maybe she didn't really have anyone on the bench. Oh, Chris Godwin should be there, yeah, but he's injured. Anyway, Robbie Anderson, I don't like that. Cole Kmet has had 0 points in 2 straight weeks, and for some reason, because Dalton Schultz is questionable, that's why he's in. Yeah, he's been absolute garbage, so she's probably going to have to drop him. Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton are awesome receivers. Najee Harris will get better. I think, he had 9 points, but he had like 25 touches or something like that. Where is it? 15 carries, 5 receptions, so 20 touches. That's good. And against a team that's not the Patriots, he's going to get more yards than that. So I don't worry about him. Dalvin Cook is interesting because I think he had like no touches last week. Well, 10, which is fine. But like the Eagles defense is scary good. But he hasn't scored a touchdown yet, and that's just chance. But he'll be better. So I wouldn't worry about Dalvin Cook either. If she can figure out these 2 spots here, which I think Schultz should be fine at tight end, as long as his injury isn't serious. And then Godwin, if he comes back healthy, or Pollard steps up, then she could have a good flex spot. So her team is fine. I wouldn't worry too much about it. She scored 124 last week. She just happened to get beat by that other guy who's just so good right there. So her team's fine, but it is 9 currently. At number 8, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but it is Cecil, the Calyptian Defenestrators or whatever. His team's good, minus, I think, really just one hole, and that's his running back 2. I don't think there's any problem with Brandon Cooks or Curtis Samuel where they are. But Mark Ingram as your running back 2, like that's what we started last week. 4 points is just terrible. There is a chance that Breece Hall ends up being really great. I think he did good last week. He had 8 touches and a touchdown and looked really good on the times he got the ball. So he's probably going to move up to the number 1 running back on that team over Michael Carter soon. So as it stands, Cecil is a team around 8, like where I put him, but it definitely has a chance to be closer to top 5 if he can figure that out with Breece Hall. Although he needs to drop Darnell Mooney. The Bears offense has passed 28 times in 2 games. That's embarrassing. Everyone else is fine though. So moving on to number 7. That team is Amon-Ra, the sun god. If you don't know who that's referencing, it's obviously referencing Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is named after an Egyptian sun god. Hi, Kaylee. What's going on?
I had to chase Lucy.
Why? She can roam. Not going to get anything. So this guy's team is absolutely stacked at receiver. Mike Williams, Amon-Ra, Deebo Samuel, Michael Thomas, Jacoby Myers, and Devontae Smith. That is insane. Those are all startable receivers, and he has them all on his team. However, running back situation is a little dicey. Singletary has, like 3 touches a game? I mean, not actually, 10 and 8. First week he was great when he got the ball. Last week he was not. But that Bills offense just loves passing the ball to Stephon Diggs and nothing else. Montgomery was good last week, so if he keeps that up, we're at 15 carries, 122 yards. That's really good. No touchdowns, but that's fine. If he keeps that up, then this team is definitely could be top 5. The only issue is their quarterback, my quarterback, is Jared Goff, and that is scary. Even though he's like the 8th ranked quarterback right now, 8th over here, which is good. However, it's Jared Goff, and that is not going to last for very long, I don't think. I mean, I have Marcus Mariota off the bench, but that's also not a good situation. If they can trade for a quarterback without losing too much depth, they could be a top 3 team for sure. I mean, they're stacked. However, they're going to figure that out. All right. Number 6, Ari Ortiz, also known as the second best team, which is 4 teams off. He has been at number 6 the entire time so far. He has not moved. At first glance, I don't see anything necessarily wrong with this team. It's really average across the board. Joe Burrow, average quarterback. Leonard Fournette and Jonathan Taylor, that's probably an above average starting running back group. However, his receivers are a bit of a below average group, so it kind of balances out. Tyler Higbee and Darren Waller are actually really good tight ends to have. That's great depth there. However, he's improved his bench a lot since the beginning, but George Pickens is basically a negative. James Robinson is looking like the number 1 running back on that team, and he could be awesome. I'm not loving Marquise Brown, although he has been fine. I think he has Yeah, he's been right around 10 each game, so that's not terrible. But when Hopkins comes back, that's going to be nothing there. That's going to be worthless. Damian Harris was good last week. Yeah, he got 15 carries, 9 the week before. So he actually could be serious back too. It just depends on how they perform this week. So his team's good. It just depends on how they perform going forwards. And so far, Burrow hasn't been great. Fournette hasn't been awesome. Taylor has been good. Not as good as you want from him, but, you know. But basically, if his team does perform at what they all could perform at, you know, they're not their ceiling, but like what we expect from them, then he's definitely going to be a top 3 team because he has a lot of good players, but currently he just hasn't shown that yet. Number 5, least clutch team, also known as Benjamin. The focal point of his team so far has been his running backs. They're both averaging about 20, which is great. Jefferson is averaging 20 as well. However, that's on a game of like 35 and a game of 8. So, I mean, consistency is very important in fantasy. And if you're doing that, then you're not helping your team win a lot of games. Garrett Wilson was good last week. He's starting him this week. There's a lot of room here to say that that's going to be a consistent thing. 8 targets and then up to 14. That's serious with 2 touchdowns. I mean, he could be a star here, but that's obviously something that I can't really say just yet. We'll need more weeks of that. He's also starting Allen Lazard, who I do like. However, last week he only had 3 targets, all of them being, or 2 of them being really short. One of them was an end zone, like 30-yard bomb, and then he just missed it. It was like slightly overthrown. But could be a good player as well. I think he's the number 1 receiver over there in Green Bay, but I think he was on a low snap count. So that's why that looks bad. But that's a good player too. His bench is dog shit. Cordell Patterson could be good, but the only reason he actually got as many touches as he did week 1 was because the other running back, Damian Williams, got injured. So I wouldn't have a lot of confidence there. Rex Burkhead is terrible. His quarterback situation right now looks good on paper, Tom Brady and Russell Wilson, but they have been awful. I think Evan Ingram's been consistently average so far. But yeah, he's averaging about 6.5. That's fine for a tight end. Jordan Mason hasn't done anything. I'm assuming he signed him because that's a possible running back to get touches next week for San Francisco, and they like to rotate in a lot, so you never know what could happen there. DJ Moore is fine. I think he had a touchdown. Yeah, he had a touchdown last week, but he still only had 3 catches for 43. He had 3 catches for 43 yards both week on 6 targets. That's weird. Anyway, that's not if he's consistently getting 6 targets, 3 catches, and 43 yards. That is not a good player. He's not a startable player. So good team still, but there is a few question marks, and that's why he's not up there with the next 4, who are, I think, like the top. Not obviously the top 4 teams, but I think they're like a whole new section of good so far. Their players have been far more consistent, and they've scored a lot more points. So moving on to number 4. Did you read it? You just guessed. Moving on to number 4. We Are Groot. So first thing is her receivers, as in Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, and Michael Pittman Jr., who is projected to play this week, are absolutely insane. I mean, that's obviously the best receiver core in the whole league. It's not even close. Freiermuth is awesome. Edwards-Helaire has been good, but he's also been good on 10 touches a game about. I mean, that's not... Sorry, I gotta... That is... I mean, it's good that he's scoring that many points. 15 a game is good, but it's not good that he's not getting a lot of touches, because that means that those touchdowns are not going to be likely, and he's going to have a lot of games where he gets 2 or 3 points. I mean, you never know. Maybe they're going to improve that because of how well he's been playing, but it's kind of unlikely. Zeke has been pretty awful. I think he had 4.9 points each week so far. Yeah, he's had exactly 4.9 points each week with negative receiving yards each week. That's probably not going to stay because they played 2 really good run defenses, and it looks like they have 2 straight weeks of bad run defenses. So I wouldn't be super worried in Zeke, But I would be worried about the fact that Tony Pollard did play great last week and is probably going to get even more touches now. Michael Carter is about to lose his starting job. He had 10 carries and 7 catches, and then he had 7 and 5, so Kaylee should look to get rid of him soon before he becomes valueless. For bench, though, she has Jeff Wilson, who got, I think, 18 carries? Yeah, 18 carries in his first game as a starter. 2 catches. That's really good. And that was playing a decent defense in Seattle, so if they get games against... Because in the next 2 months of him being the starter, unless he gets injured, they don't play a lot of... Oh, they do play a lot of good teams, actually. They play a stretch of 2 bad ones, and then the rest of them are pretty good. So he's probably not going to be great, but he'll at least be startable, at least over Michael Carter, although she won't really have to start Jeff Wilson because she has Pittman in the flex. So this team is probably going to be a really inconsistent scoring team, but I think it could range anywhere from being like a week where they get like 160 to a week where they get like 80, just based on the fact that Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs are not going to be able to carry every single week with almost 75 points combined. Moving on to the third team, the Mount Baker Turd Slicers, also known as McKay. At first glance, you will see big names like Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, and Saquon Barkley. However, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley both have games of just 8. But looking at their rings in terms of touches, he had even more. He had exactly 24 touches, just like last week Saquon did. He just happened to not score a touchdown and not break a bunch of long runs. So I wouldn't be worried if you have Saquon Barkley. I think he's gonna be good still. Absolutely no way Derrick Henry continues the streak of 8-point games. I bet you he's about to put on like 150 yards on Las Vegas and like 2 touchdowns. So this team is really scary, minus the receivers. Everywhere else here in the starting lineup at least is really good. TJ Hawkinson hasn't been good yet. I think he had 14 targets in 2 weeks, but only 5 points in average. But he's more of a touchdown player anyway, so I don't think that's a big worry. You don't expect a lot of yards from him. You're just looking for a touchdown. McLaurin and CD. McLaurin's averaging 11, which is fine, but he's averaging 11 on 6 catches. That's it. So that is not good. You're not going to get good points if you're getting 3-4 catches a week. It is never going to happen. I think CeeDee Lamb, he had a better game with Cooper Rush in and same amount of targets. So I wouldn't worry about him necessarily, but he hasn't shown that he's actually a great receiver yet. So as of now, the receivers are really weak, and he doesn't really have anyone off the bench. Robert Woods and Adam Thielen are fine as well, but I wouldn't be confident if I was him on the receiver position. Everyone else, though, is great. So that's especially Jalen Hurts, who had 100 rushing yards almost last week. Let me look. 57, but 2 touchdowns. That's what it was. So, I mean, if you have a quarterback who's out rushing your, Derrick Henry, outscoring him on the ground, then that's all you fucking need. Number 2. This is between the Wilsonville Wilsons and Team Ganarius. So, Mom, I'm filming my podcast. That's Kaylee's to blame, yeah.
What?
Let the dog out. Thank you.
That is not me to blame.
It wasn't my idea.
That was totally his idea.
It wasn't my idea. It wasn't. Anyway, number 2 is Team Ganarius, which makes Avril number 1. There is a lot to say about his team. Like, every single player has something going on. I mean, minus, like, the kicker and defense. But Patrick Mahomes, you're a little worried about his performance after last week because, he had 44 and then down to, 21. And if you get 21 a week, that's not good at where you drafted him. Not that 21's bad, but you need those weeks of 30 plus if you're going to draft a quarterback at, 3rd or 4th round. McCaffrey, I don't think he's scored a touchdown yet. No, he has scored 1 touchdown, but he hasn't touched the ball as much as he normally does. 19 and 14. Normally he has 25 touches a game. So if they get him more involved, he's going to be fine. And 102 yards rushing and 26, that's good. So I wouldn't worry at all there. But there is possibility that he's only like a top 15 running back this year because they don't want to use him a ton, but that'd be weird. Jacobs looked really good week 1. Averaged almost 6 yards per carry and had 16 yards receiving on it, just 1 catch. And then got more touches, but less production with those touches. So you'd like to see this kind of efficiency with this kind of usage, and he'll be good. Although he's playing Tennessee next week, and Tennessee's run defense is pretty good. So I wouldn't expect anything from him this week. Rashad Bateman has 6 catches and 2 touchdowns, and also like 160 yards. So he's fine on targets, but like you can't expect 75-yard touchdowns every single week from him. So I would look into trading that away. I mean, good player so far, but like you can't expect that every week. Boyd, I don't think Boyd's his number 1 receiver. Yeah, it's Keenan Allen who's injured, Gabe Davis is injured, George Kittle who's injured. So you've seen him be a top 2 team without 3 of his starting players. Hayden Hurst was fine last week for a tight end. I mean, you're not going to complain with 5 points really off a backup tight end. Kareem Hunt, you never know with him. It's really weird because he'll have weeks where he has like 2 touchdowns and on like 5 carries or 5 touches, and then weeks where he'll get more touches and do almost nothing with him. It just kind of depends on how they feel with their running backs. They kind of alternate. It's really weird. They'll do Nick Chubb in the red zone, and then next week they'll do Kareem Hunt in the red zone. So just kind of about getting lucky. But it's good that he has 2 other running backs to balance that out and just put him in the flex. This team is going to be terrifying, especially when Michael Gallup gets back, and Kittle and Gabe Davis and Keenan Allen. So if you're Tory, which only one of you guys is, I would be very happy about your team right now. And if you're Avril, I would be extremely happy about your team right now. Mainly because she had a quarterback that scored 49, and he shouldn't have even been starting. It should have been the one that scored 51. That is insane. If you score 51 points, you don't even need to do anything else with any of your other players. That's it. They just need to get like 5 points each, and you'll have won your week. That is absolutely insane to me. So Mixon, he's been pretty bad so far. I mean, not terrible, but like also not wonderful. A lot of touches, like an insane amount of touches, 22 and 34, but it's not a lot of yards because their offense line is terrible. But they've also played 2 amazing run defenses, just like whoever it was earlier. I forgot who, Derrick Henry, I think. But when they play New York next week, he's probably going to have 20 fantasy points, probably, at least. So I wouldn't worry about him there. He's great. Miles Sanders, production, or not production, but like touches went up last week, didn't score a touchdown. You can't expect that every week. So I would also be happy about that. Mike Evans is suspended. A.J. Brown is looking great. Zach Ertz is looking great. Dotson is another one of those players where so far he's had a lot of touchdowns on like just a few catches, and that's not something that's not going to keep up. So if I were her, I would look at trading Jahan Dotson before he becomes valueless. Let's see. Cam Akers got like 20 touches, 20 carries last week, almost 17 total touches last week after getting 0 yards the week before. So that at least means that they believe that his Achilles is improving, which is good. Mostert off the bench. I like him. He's looking to become the starting running back now because he had 5 carries and then up to 11 and 3 catches. So I'm seeing next week do not start him against Buffalo. They are insane. But once we get into like week 5 with New York, he could be a serious starting running back already. He could be getting 20 carries a game and really being a threat. Besides that, no one else is really, I don't think I need to talk about anyone else. Tua has had 51 points, which is not going to happen every week, and especially not this week. I don't know if you would look into trading him because any time a quarterback's going 51, you might want to just try to ride that and see if he continues. I don't think he will, but if this guy is throwing 3-4 touchdowns a week, you don't want to get rid of that, even if you do have Lamar, because there's going to be times when Lamar's playing a team like Buffalo, right, where you need another quarterback. So if you have 2, you might as well keep them, unless you absolutely have a need on the offense somewhere else, which I don't. She doesn't really. So if I were her, I would just keep Tua and Lamar at the same time and work with that. The next segment is the Moment of the Week award. I will list out the nominees, and I will give my personal take on which one I think is the best. Nominee 1. Rhonda watching Dalvin Cook shit the bed on Monday Night Football and then complaining in the group chat. McKay's comeback against Ari with Jalen Hurts and Aaron Jones absolutely carrying. CJ and Cecil going from the 2 lowest scoring teams all the way to the 2 highest scoring teams in just a week. And the 4th nominee is Avril's QBs scoring 50 apiece. And personally, with no bias, I think the greatest moment of the week is... Nope, it's not Avril, Kaylee. Be quiet. It is McKay's comeback with Jalen Hurts, Aaron Jones, and Derrick Henry needing about 60 points. They frickin' did it. Let me look at that real quick. I want to get there. Jalen Hurts had 35, Aaron Jones had 29, and Derrick Henry had 8, or round up to 9. And he only won by 4. That is insane. He also had to outscore Tyler Bass at the same time, who only finished with 12. Actually, he finished with more than he was projected. So that is insane. And that came down to the wire. The next segment is what I like to call the Worryometer. Basically, I'm just going to take you through some of the players that you guys have that so far have been bad. And I will say how much you should worry out of 10 about them. And I made sure to get a few on each team so everyone has someone that they can listen for. Here we go. And we're getting an ad. Wonderful. Why? Okay. Why am I... Fudge. Oh, scoreboard is where I meant to be. No, box score. Alright, so no, that's not where I meant to be at. Whatever. Anyway, the first person is Devin Singletary, who I have on my team. And I give him a 6 out of 10. I would give him a 10 out of 10 if he's on any other team, but the fact he's on the Buffalo Bills and their 35, 40 points a game offense, there's going to need to be, someone's going to score the ball. It's going to be Stephon Diggs and it's going to be Josh Allen, but it's got to be someone else. And Singletary is the most likely person for that. The next person is Dalvin Cook, who got, 15 carries last week against Eagles and got shut down. That's not going to happen. I give him a 4 out of 10. There's a little worry there that offense is kind of looking away from Dalvin Cook as their main option. They're looking for Justin Jefferson and Thielen in the passing game, and maybe he's not going to be as productive as he was in years prior. But I wouldn't worry or be trying to trade him away or anything. Najee Harris, I gave a 5 out of 10. So far, he's played really good run defenses, so I wasn't really expecting him to start off super hot anyway. But he got a lot of touches, and that's kind of all you look for. However, last year, his main, the reason he was so good is because he got so many catches. He had, nearly 100, and that just brings a lot into the game. As far as this year, he's only had about 2 or 3 per week, which is pretty average for a good running back. So I give him a 5 out of 10. He hasn't really been productive with his touches, but I think he will improve. And that's a 5 out of 10 is you can trade him and not feel terrible about it as long as you get a good package back. But also, it's not really necessary. I also give Joe Mixon a 5 out of 10, not because he's been bad himself, but because the offensive line is awful. And I honestly don't even know what to think there. So 5 is just in the middle. It's hard to predict is all. Russell Wilson, I give a 7 out of 10. Every single coach on that staff is in a new position they've never been in before. As in, they're all one step above what they were before. Their offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators, they're people that never been that before. Their coach has never been a coach before or a head coach before. So it's just you normally when a player underperforms in the first couple weeks, you assume that it's because of matchup or because of they're getting used to a new system. But I think in this case, I think Russell Wilson's just bad because their coaching staff is just new. They don't know what they're doing. And you've seen that in the first 2 weeks with the poor clock management and poor offensive play calling. And that's not something that improves in 1 week. So if you have Russell Wilson, I would not be very excited about it. Tom Brady, I gave a 3 out of 10. I think I said 7 out of 10 for Russ, but just in case I forgot. Tom Brady at 3 out of 10 is pretty fair. I think in terms of the teams they've played, which are Dallas and New Orleans, those are pretty good defenses. I don't expect that to be every single week. They're going to play teams like Carolina twice. They're going to play Atlanta twice. So I think he's going to get back to where he was. He's just underperforming as of now. Injured receivers and stuff. Don't worry about him. James Conner, I give an 8 out of 10. Last week, he got a minor injury. I think he was out for the rest of the game after that. And then Darrell Williams and Eno Benjamin took over and were really good. I think this is quickly going to shift into a backfield of like just rotating through 3 guys and getting them all involved, keeping them fresh. And I think that's going to minimize his value pretty much entirely. Next is DK Metcalf. I give a 9 out of 10 because Geno Smith is awful. And I thought so after the first week, even though I wanted to believe in my heart of hearts that he was the next best thing in Seattle, but he's not. Ever since that first 2 quarters in Seattle, they haven't scored an offensive touchdown or any offensive points. They throw screens to DK, gets like 5 yards per catch. It looks bad. There's almost no chance he performs well this year. I should have seen it coming in. And honestly, my bias wanted to believe that he would still be good, but he's just not going to be good. He might not be bad, but he's just going to be super average for someone who was drafted in like the 4th or 5th round. Leonard Fournette, I give it 2 out of 10. He's got a lot of touches, on a good offense. They've just played bad matchups. So, I mean, he's going to be good. Don't worry about him. Derrick Henry, 3 out of 10. Honestly, he's a 3 out of 10 because he's Derrick Henry. And no matter what team he's on, no matter who he's playing, he has a chance to offer 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. And I expect that that's going to be something that continues. Not every week, but it's definitely not going to be 8 points every week. He's going to have better games, and I wouldn't worry about him at all. Travis Etienne Jr., I give an 8 out of 10 because it's looking like he's already lost the job in 2 weeks to James Robinson. And James Robinson's great, and you kind of thought going into the season that, maybe it'd be a split backfield, but I don't think anyone really expected him to lose the job like fully this quick. But he pretty much has. Zeke could give a 7 out of 10. I think he's about one more bad week from actually losing his starting role to Tony Pollard. And that is scary for anyone that has him. But there's not really much more to say about him. He just hasn't been good. And there's a chance that after these first 2 weeks where he's played really good defenses, that he starts going off and that you don't have to worry about him anymore. But there's also a chance that he loses his job and is like a bottom tier running back for the rest of the year. And that would be quite alarming. Kyle Pitts, I give a 3 out of 10. I don't like the coaching strategies by Arthur Smith so far. I've only watched a little bit of the Falcons games, but it seems like he's blocking a lot. And the dude is basically a receiver. I mean, just put him out wide and throw the ball deep. He's like 6'6", 240 and runs like a 4.5. How hard is it to throw to him? However, they're losing games, and obviously they're going to look and say, oh, what are we doing wrong? Oh, maybe it's the guy that we drafted 4th overall last year. Maybe we're not using him enough. Maybe 2 catches a game isn't good enough. Yeah, it's not. So if you have him, worry a little bit, but he's going to be fine. And even if he's only a top 6 tight end, whatever, he's still going to be better than trying to, dig for scraps each week on the waiver wire. Austin Eckler, I give a 3 out of 10. He's not going to be as good as he was the last couple of years because they have good goal line backs, and he got like 22 touchdowns last year, most of them in the red zone at the goal line. That's not going to happen this year, but he's still going to get, 20 touches a total a game. He's still awesome. He's still Austin Eckler, and that offense is still good. So if you have him, don't worry. Josh Jacobs, I talked about him earlier. I give him a 6 out of 10. I think he's fine as a running back. If you drafted him, if you could get in like the 6th, 5th round, put him at the flex or something when he plays like a bad defense, because then, maybe he could get a touchdown or 2 and 80 yards rushing. But he's really, really unathletic for a running back. He does not get many big plays. He just takes the ball and waddles a little bit, gets 4 yards, and if the goal line's there, ooh, touchdown. But if it's not, then he gets nothing. So he's super consistently bad at getting more than 5 yards, but he's really consistent at scoring when the goal line is within 5 yards. So when you have a what? I didn't read the message.
Chicken 6
Chickens escaped. Oh my god. How? Okay, well,
She's so on your
that was my last one anyway. My chickens escaped, so I'm bye. Bye, guys. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.